as we're saying off the air here, like like I said, with when you do these kind of shows and you're doing your stuff, it's like you never know what you're going to expect from anybody you get on the
Hmm.
show. I don't do as much research as I should anymore. I'm doing one interview after another interview after another interview. But yeah, you were somebody that when I heard about it, it's like, wait, people respect you. Lots of people respect you. Like, I don't know. I don't know.
I try.
You try. I try.
Hmm.
Well, just I there's a lot of things about the pandemic that kind of like made me think about some things. One of them is very maybe because I'm getting middle aged and crazy, but that's the right. Right. I haven't gotten to the point of talking to clouds yet. Just don't tell her. Okay, it's okay. I haven't gotten to that point yet. But what I realized is I took two really fundamental, wonderful things. I don't have to cooperate with anybody.
Hmm.
That is a wonderful thing to realize. And the second thing I realize is, you know what? No matter what you say, you're going to piss somebody off.
Hmm.
So I'm going to be true to me.
Yeah.
And if you like what I say, great. If you disagree with me, you know what? I'm also great. Like, you know what? I just took my ego took a beating on this one, right? My ego took a little bit, but I had this epiphany that the universe's point of view, like my point of view on the universe, is not everybody's. And it was
Hmm.
a shocking moment. I had a little bit of a cry, I'm not gonna lie. But I realized that maybe it's for the best because it happens, like
Hmm.
we're not meant to think the same, be the same. We're all meant to experience different things.
Yeah.
So like, um, I'm not gonna get it all right. And thank God. Right? And
That's where some of the fun comes from, right?
oh, that's just something fun because like I don't want a perfect world or an unchanging world. That would truly be hell, right?
Hmm.
Hell isn't. Listen, heaven is being able to go outside right now if I really wanted to. It's snowing. It's freaking cold in Canmore,
Oh no.
Alberta.
I'm sorry.
Right? It's
We're
okay.
having a
It's okay.
great day. It's like 60 over here. That's why the sky is red, supposedly, according to this image.
It's red sky because everybody's burning out there,
Yeah,
burning or
that's
something.
true.
Okay, it's possible. But if I wanted to right now, right now, no, I'm not recommending this. I could literally go down. I could strip down and just slide across the snow. Now, is that a good idea? Probably not.
The
Right?
number of times
But
I've done that skiing, no.
no, no skiing. It's not fun at all. Skiing, it's like this is not the experience I meant to have going down this hill. I wanted to slide down this hill, but I wanted to slide upright,
Right.
right? And looking
Not.
towards where I'm going. I actually don't know what scares me more with skiing. If you like falling down and sliding, that's kind of humiliating, but it happens to us all. Or going down the hill backwards. I think that would
Oof.
terrify me a little
Yeah.
bit more.
At least you can like look death head
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Well, you at least see, that's the thing, right? At the very least, in that particular instance, you can be like, you know, if I'm sliding down a hill to my impending doom, this ride ain't so bad. The landing's gonna suck, but the ride ain't so bad, right? Whereas going backwards, you can't even do that because you're like, I don't like. Oh God, please let me not hit anything, right? Because you don't want you get no way to prepare yourself or anything like that. So it's like, oh man, right, right. Don't want to be one of those Bugs Bunny cartoons where you see like one of those imprints of you going through the tree. Like you just don't
Right.
want that. Lying down, that's not going to happen, right? The worst that's going to happen is you're going to be like, how the hell do I get back up when this is over? Right?
Now that I'm under 8 feet of snow. So-
Yeah. Like I mean, that's a life problem, but it's one of those ones where you just kind of look at it and go, okay, I can get out of this eventually. Backwards.
better than the alternative, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man.
But to go back to my point, like we do silly, stupid shit all the time, and we're allowed to. That I think is that if I had to do the actual true definition of freedom, that's the real definition of freedom. We can do stupid shit, and we get a pass,
Hmm.
right? besides the consequences of being stupid, which everybody, right?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, whatever those might be.
Whatever. Hey, but we all. I mean, that's the bad. But that's again, that's like I said, the sliding in the snow in undies. Is, I'm not recommending this, folks. I'm really not. I gotta say that now. But I could,
So
and
that's how you
that's
get
the
sued.
thing.
Not
Not
putting
really.
those
No.
disclaimers.
Okay. Straight up, you're a cop. Okay, I'm just put this in perspective. You're a cop. You see someone sliding down the snow like wearing nothing. Do you really want to deal with that?
No.
Right? How do you even begin to deal with that? Like, what are you going to threaten them with? You can't do that. Why not? And it's like your brain's going to stop functioning right there. It's like, what can I say to this person that's even remotely rational at this moment?
Because
Right?
they seem to be functioning on a different
Yeah, it's
different
like that's
plane
like
right now.
yeah, like you don't like you just don't know what to do,
Mhm.
right? Like so if you're the cop, you're like, do I really have to? Right?
Like I used to work in healthcare, and for a couple years I was on like a psych wing, and for a lot of the cases it's like, just if the person doesn't seem to be making sense with this reality, just meet them where they are. Talk to them about, the lion in the backyard, the fact that the sky is green, like that's fine. That's it, like this.
Yeah,
That's
no,
okay.
like, but that's it, right?
Hmm.
Right, and yet, I mean, if you want to go to the meta sense of it, like we're all batshit crazy.
Oh yeah.
None of us see the world the same way. So the question is, are you willing to meet anybody you're on the other side of you, at least a part of the way,
Mhm.
right? I don't know how to do that with like someone complaining about an imaginary line. I you know what? I can accept the fact that they can see something I can't. I can actually accept that.
Mhm.
The person going down the hill like wearing nothing on the snow, I have no idea how to deal with that. Like, right? It's like, I don't have an answer because they chose to do that. I don't know why. I'm afraid to ask why. I'm afraid to speak at all because I'm not sure where do I even begin. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Oh
This is not the
man.
conversation I expected to start with.
It all started with the weather.
Yeah, I know.
Oh man.
Yeah, but that's okay. Like I told you, I did like that. I probably should do more prep than I do, but then you don't get these conversations, and these are way more fun than me asking a question of how are you today? Because who the hell answers that honestly?
Also, I feel like, especially lately, most of the time when people ask that question, there's always that like, well, I mean, it's just like a bunch of equivocating. Then like, I guess I'm fine. Like,
Yeah,
okay.
but see, even before all this crazy, no one told the truth on that one
No.
anyway. Everybody bullshit. I said I'm fine. What the fuck is fine?
Or
I'm good.
great conversation enders to actually answer the question.
Yeah. No, it actually, I was taught that of all things, my high school, my English class. He actually pointed this out. It's like, he actually told me, I regret teaching you this. I regret this because it opens you to some. You're going to be an interesting dude in about 10 years. He was right, but that's okay, right? That's okay, right? It was one of those. It was one of those moments where I had this epiphany. We all we have a box. There's almost all of us. Some degree we all play it. There's a box where everybody kind of meets everybody, and you need to have that box to some extent. But then you realize, like at some point, again, going back to something I said, I'm older. I don't have to cooperate. I don't even have to be in this box if I don't want to.
Hmm.
It's like mind blown, right? Right? Maybe again, I openly acknowledge my batshit craziness. It's okay. I'm good with it. But right, it's just like once those things like hit, it's like, well, then if I don't have to be in this box, what is exactly possible? And I think that's I think where the really interesting angle of that is. And I mean, and we up until the pandemic were really we were kind of exploring that. And now I think we're going to explore. I think now there's more of a pressure to explore those questions now
Yeah.
with everything changing.
I think a lot of people had, because we were spending so much time sort of like with ourselves, maybe for the first time for a lot of us, when we were spending so much time outside of that box because we weren't in it, because we weren't exposed to, people all the time everywhere, we realized that we couldn't actually fold ourselves back into the box anymore.
Yeah.
At least with the same frequency or skill set.
Or even the desire to. Like,
Right.
what is that box going to look like going forward? Okay, so where are you? I just need to ask where are you?
New England of
So
the United
you're
States.
New England. Okay, so so you're aware what's going on up north of you right now with the.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't alcohol because I'm interviewing you. All right. So.
I mean, it's 5:00 somewhere.
Yeah,
It's 4:00 here, but.
No, and it's 2:00 here. But I mean, But the thing about it is, I realize, right, that part of what's happening here is because the box is gone.
Right.
So now what you're having is a clash of ideals, honestly, on many different levels. I can make it a class warfare thing on some levels, because it is in some levels. I can make it about the fact that the political system as we know it today, not just here, but even down where you.
Oh yeah.
By the way, my condolences for your presence for the last a long time. Well, let's leave it there. My condolences. And listen, this is just this is sincere advice from someone I don't know very well. If your presidential candidate nominees are what you got now and Donald Trump again, just go to Mexico. Just go.
So during the 2016 election, the Canadian immigration webpage went down. Yeah,
but no, it was bad. But you're not going to want to go. Like I'm just strictly speaking what's going on here.
Not now.
That's not going to be the thing. Yeah, I'm just telling you, if you see that, if that's the marquee on you, forget the election. Don't even worry about voting. Just go. Just go. There's no happy ending for you, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's the hard part too. Is like so many of us can't go anywhere. Like this is where my job is. This is where my life is, and there's no money to go anywhere. It's rough.
Yeah. No. I just say it like that because because I look at that as like that. Then you and I both will be drinking at that point. I'm like, it's like, who do you vote for? Does it matter? Right? So, because I like Trump was crazy. Biden's
lackluster.
Also crazy.
Polite. Yeah, that's my polite way of saying it.
Yeah, also crazy. Just like you went from like you almost went like if this was a teeter-totter, you went from here to here, wondering what happened in the middle. We're not going to go like in great detail about that, but I looked at that. It was just like I don't know if the other one was better or not, or worse or not. And the fact that I actually don't have a clear answer to that is actually frightening, because I didn't think the last one was good either.
Yeah. Right? Well, and it's tough too, because like, for people like myself, it's like, okay, well, one isn't actively trying to kill me, which is cool, I guess, but also not actively trying to stop the people who are. So is that really any better? Like, is it?
And actually, and here it depends on which groups you are too. Biden has a history, so does Trump, right? So Trump, certain groups, I don't want you to kill those people if you're on Trump's side, and if you're on Biden's side, it's like there are other groups, same thing. Wait a minute, so it's like, dear God, what the hell happened? And but again, going to my actual point before we go deep down this dark rabbit hole where we both then need some very strong liquor. What's happening is, you can clearly see it. The world has changed, and the systems in place are doing what any system in place that's inevitably collapsed, like trying to hang on for as long as it can before it disappears. That's what's happening up here. Like, if I were to break it all down simplistically, it's a lot more complex than this, but I had to pick up just one point. New systems are coming, things are changing, and the current systems in place can't keep up with the changes, right? And they don't have the tools to do it. So inevitably, they're going to disappear.
Mhm.
The only real question is, how do they disappear, right? Could
And
they
what
go
takes their
quiet?
place?
Well, yeah, what takes their place? It depends on how things go, right? But that's what you're seeing. You're seeing the struggling end of these older systems that no longer serve a purpose. That's why
Mhm.
you're seeing struggles in Canada. That's why you're going to see struggles in the States. That's why you're going to see struggles all over the world, because the pandemic was not the end of the world, but it was the click of the button of the world needs to change.
Mhm.
And everybody realizes it. And every country seems to be doing it in a variety of ways. Some interesting, some scary, some not at all. Maybe the ones that didn't do anything at all were the smartest ones in some ways, right? Let the changes occur, and that that
Mhm.
that might be, maybe that's inevitably the best way to deal with change, I find. But
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen regardless. It's
yeah,
just sort of a matter of how you navigate it and make sure that everyone is at least getting a say in how this change is going to affect them, and that you're hopefully listening to them, and not listening to the the version you want, which is hard. I think it's hard because we're, like you were saying, everyone is seeing the world in a different way, and that's fine as long as you're not saying, well, but you have to see it this way, because it's impossible. I mean, it's like putting on someone else's glasses, right? Like,
oh my god, I see all the sparkles. It's like, that's it. Is this what you always see? And then you get the glasses back. I don't see sparkles.
right. What sparkles
And
do you see?
it's like tears in your eyes. Wait.
Yeah.
Right.
What
I'm
am I
missing out
missing?
on.
Yeah.
Yeah. What am I missing? At least it's not glitter, because then I just get stuck
Oh
everywhere, right?
God.
But glitter is the special kind of like joyous hell of
Mhm.
like, oh my god, there's like it goes everywhere. You never get rid of it, but it always looks pretty, right? It's
We
like,
have we have glitter on our popcorn ceiling up in our bedroom right now. And at first, like when we first moved, I'm like, it's gotta go. It's hideous. It's horrible. I hate it. And now I'm like, well, maybe we could just like leave just this part because it's kind of sparkly and it's kind of like stars.
it's breaking you down. It's
It
breaking
is.
you down. Also, you will never fully get rid of glitter.
No, no, or the popcorn ceiling, really.
Yeah, yeah. So some battles are worth fighting, and sometimes it's just you enjoy the glitter. It's here. It's never coming. It's never going away. Right?
Oh, never getting rid of it. Might as well embrace
Embrace your inner glitter. That might be the theme of this
it.
podcast. But I mean, but yeah, like that's the whole thing. Like you go out, you accept change. I think the biggest thing, and I think we're gonna have to relearn this one the hard way. And I think this is the real challenge of the next 3 to 5 years. Are we going to listen to each other?
Mhm. I hope so.
Isn't it? Yeah, I hope so too.
I mean, I think I'm seeing, and maybe this is just indicative of some of the circles that I've encountered and tried to stay within. But I think there is a lot more, and maybe it's just out of exhaustion, but listening to some extent, just sort of taking it in. I think a lot of people are tired of talking, tired of putting themselves out there. They're tired of cramming themselves into a box, and so now they're seeing someone else saying like, I'm exhausted because this, that, and the other thing, and they're like, I am too. And I think hopefully, even though it's terrible for it to come from just shared exhaustion, I think maybe that'll help a little bit. And like you were saying, a lot of different countries and cultures are starting to say like, okay, well, this stuff is not working, so
Yeah,
let's do
yeah.
something about it. And we're all seeing each other say that those same things and say like, well, this isn't working for me. And it's like, okay, well, we were about to try that, so why isn't it working for you? And maybe it could work for us instead. So that conversation is nice.
I'm about Canada's about three. Like the people really for the things right now still in Canada are about 6 months behind. We were one of the
Hmm.
last countries to get on board with all this stuff,
Yeah.
right? So we're still going through that ride,
Hmm.
and it's interesting because I look at the fact that Israel Denmark, and England have all ended restrictions. You look at their case counts,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, the reality of the situation is they're not doing it because they're being callous or careless.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing it because they've concluded that, okay, we did all this and it's still here. So they don't work, which is a logical conclusion, right? That doesn't mean we can't learn from the things we tried. Some of them were better than others, right? I really hope we never do another lockdown phase ever again for as long as I live.
It worked great for me, but
well, no. I for me it was okay. So this is the part for me that was really thing. I lived in Windsor, Ontario. So my grandmother lived in Detroit. Now Windsor to Detroit is the difference was 15 miles in an invisible line.
Yeah.
I'm in Alberta now. I never got to see her during my time. It was
that's hard.
Yeah, that was a brutal. So I don't ever want to see this again. That for those reasons. Don't get me wrong. Like in a lot of other ways, it was great. This isn't my first apocalypse, so it was kind of like it. Mine was more personal the first time. But I mean, I've been through like when you see hell, like when you've already kind of seen hell, like your own personal, like this can't possibly get any worse. Nothing phases you anymore the same way anymore because you're like, oh, I've been here before.
Yeah, at least it's familiar, right?
well, it's like it sucks, but I know it changes. I just got to go through it. Fuck my life, but still, that's it, right? It's like I don't want to be back here anymore, but that's where we're at sometimes, right? And we go through things, but again, there's a certain resiliency you get when you've experienced extreme hardships, and you're like, that's great. But the hardest thing, and this is something I think that this is the last thing I think it is, like most of us prior to the pandemic thought we were invincible. Now I've been through my personal apocalypse, so I never thought I was invincible. I knew the opposite. That's why I'm so crazy, you see. I've already embraced oblivion. So if you can already kind of embrace the fact that you ain't going to be here anymore, it's oddly freeing, right? It's like, okay, I'm not going to be here forever. While I'm here, what do I want to do? That's pretty much me. So, but for people dealing with their mortality for the first time, that's a frightening, humbling experience. You ain't going to be here forever. Oh shit, what am I going to do? And here's the thing, you can't hide from it. There's nowhere to go. Inevitably, no matter what you do, no matter how safe you get, you're still going to, and it's probably going to be some kind of disease that wipes your ass out anyway.
Well, it's the one guarantee.
It's almost. No, there are other ways to go. I there's some ways I prefer more than others, but at the same time, right, you're going to go. So like there's a point where it's like playing safe is reasonable for a while, but there comes a point, wait, it's always going to be here. Well, then I guess playing safe ain't going to do me any good now, is it?
See, it's funny. That's one of we have field questions when we get bored at work, because for my day job I'm an archaeologist, and so we'll be out in like literal like fields or in the woods or whatever, and it can get a little dull. Silence is really nice depending on who you're working with, but we'll come up with these weird questions to ask ourselves, and it'll take maybe the first half of the day or the whole day sometimes if it's a good question for everyone to come up with their answers. And one of one of our questions is, what is your like least favorite way to die, and what is your most favorite way to die if you have to pick? And we get some good answers.
Let's see. After getting laid is mine. That's like the absolute class. Like I don't want to traumatize whoever I was with, but really
that's true.
that's the only downside to it. But from
as soon
my
as the
end,
door
also,
shuts.
yeah. It's pretty much just like that like if from my end, I mean, really, I it might be painful, but it'll be the fun kind of pain, and I'll get something out of it at least. And the worst way, probably a vacuum or a crucifixion. I'm not
there you go,
sure.
Yeah,
I mean, if you want to go
the slow burners.
Yes. Well, no, the vacuum isn't the slow burn, but it is excruciating. The cross is the slow burn. It's like it's like It's
Tedious.
painful, it hurts, and it's just gonna slowly kill you. It's like,
We
yeah,
usually get a lot of like eaten by bears because we're out in the woods, so like we're sort of constantly aware of that. That's usually a common one, and a lot of like fire and drownings are not favorites either. So
fire would suck.
fire would suck.
Fire would suck. I'm not bears. See, I have a tendency to think that the bear would just swipe my ass and I'd be gone. Like it'd be
So you
quick.
think that?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
think
right,
you're right. You know, like it's unlikely to happen. I mean, the idea of being eaten by a great white shark doesn't sound like a fun time either,
right.
right? Because I think I'd be alive for at least the first couple of minutes of that, and I'm
Mhm.
not sure that would feel that great, right?
Not a good couple minutes, probably
No,
not.
no, I think that'd be a terrible. I only could be for long, right? But once I'm in there, it's like, oh, right. Right, it's like I'm going for the ride. Like that one seems painful, but yeah. Again,
See, it's a tough question. This is why it
no,
lasts all
it's
day.
not it's not that tough. I just was like, there's the unlikely ones that would suck, but the likely ones that would probably happen. It's like, or do I think as a species we're crazy enough to do crazy things to each other? Yeah. So if I'm hoping I don't run into the sadistic bastard that thinks, hey, the crucifixions are awesome. They're cheap to make too. That's kind of the other thing about it. It's like, so they're oddly. God, this is morbid. It's like it's oddly not that hard to make. That's the thing. It's like, and if you don't have a lot to work with, and you want to make someone suffer, yeah,
Let's just
someone's
hope
just gonna,
your arch nemesis or whatever isn't watching. You'll be okay.
it's okay. I mean, there are other ways to put me in hell, and I'd live through it, right? And I think that's actually the more like terrifying things. It's like, what would you have to endure that you couldn't escape with death? And you're like, that is a hell of a mind fuck because we can tolerate a lot.
That's just what writing is like, okay, so how can I make this person who I've like spent books making other people really enjoy and like, how can I make this person suffer now?
So so your main character would probably at some point would confront you and say, "V, listen, we need to have a little chat. All this shit you put me through, stop. Just stop." And you'd
It
be
was
like,
a fun creative writing prompt. It was like what would happen if you met your main character and like everyone was like, oh, we'd go out to tea and we'd go do this and we go do that. And I'm like, you guys write romance, huh? Because
it's
I
like, what
don't.
do you write? It's like, what do you write? Thriller,
Yeah,
thriller,
it's
adventure.
like sci-fi fantasy.
Yeah.
People get eaten by dragons. I don't know.
See. Like, let's see. My main characters, I tend to free them. Right? So, there's a 10-year-old main character that would probably kick my ass, and I have no
Mhm.
shame to admit this. Like, she'd probably just destroy me. Um, let's see. I'm thinking, oh, my current one, the one I'm working on right now. I don't think she'd kill me. She wouldn't like me very much, though. She'd probably just hideously beat me.
Because of what you've done, or just because of personality?
A little bit of both. A little
Yeah.
bit of both. Like I'm past the point where all the fucked up shit has happened to her. I
Mhm.
reference it. So it's like I feel like she came with her demons when it came into my life. So I don't feel as guilty about those demons.
Not
Right?
totally responsible.
No, I don't feel that way, no. But I do have her kill evil versions of the Knights of the Round. Some of them are really fucked up. Right? So I think what she'd make me do is she'd make me hurt. Like, did you ever? There's a game called Lollipop Chainsaw. Have you ever played it?
No, I haven't even heard of it.
Okay,
I didn't know, like, I wasn't exposed to video games until I was, like, 15, so
no, it wasn't too long ago, but it's about 10 years ago.
Okay.
So the main character has her boyfriend's head as like a companion on the journey. So right, and he's still technically alive through some weird magic spell. See, that's what she'd do to me.
Right.
She'd be like,
"You can stay here, but you're not gonna do any harm anymore."
No, it's like I don't want to kill you. I want you to experience my life for a day. And for one day, I'm going to carry your head across this battlefield while I go slay this motherfucker you made up in your head. And you're going to watch it, right? The only reason your whole body isn't there is because while I do like the idea of you pissing yourself, all right, I have to carry your ass because
Right.
you're gonna run because you're gonna do the smart thing and run away. It's like,
Rather carry your 5-pound head than the
yeah,
rest of you. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I can't escape then, right? I have to observe everything. So I come back from her fight of the day, then they just pat my head and probably openly cry and solemnly swear never to do it again. Then when I get back into my real world, hopefully she can't summon me again somehow, some way. And then because if she can do that, it would be good. If not, it's like, oh, I'm gonna get you.
Right. Yeah. It's just going to become like a constant one-upmanship of of who can torment the other one more.
I can openly acknowledge my dickiness. Like I can be a bit of I am generally a nice guy, but I do have a sadistic side. So I just like it's there and I acknowledge it. I don't let it out to play very often, but when I want to, oh yeah, it can be nasty. And my dad's from he grew up in Detroit, like in one of the rougher neighborhoods. He's very like cut to the bone, down to earth, in your face. He comes across very hard. He's actually a very gentle man at this point, but he still has a bit of that hardness from his days. That never leaves you. He went to me one time when I like verbally eviscerated somebody's like, dude, it's like he looked at me afterwards. He's like, I was never that mean.
Sure you weren't. Sure you weren't, right?
Actually, I actually agreed with him. I cut a lot. You just what happens is you find like you get things from your parents,
Right.
but you don't do things necessarily the same way they did it. I'm much nicer, more polite than my father ever was. But I also have it in me to tell you to go fuck yourself. Now I might not be as blunt about it, but I will make it very crystal clear in a way. It's like in some ways it's worse. It's because I'm much more surgical about how I do it. Whereas he's just a blunt club. I have a blade, and I'm a lot more surgical about it. You know where you stand and how you stand, and I won't let you forget. So I'm terrified of it. If I have kids, I'm going to be terrified of like their ways of punishing people. I'm going to be like absolutely terrified. So it's like, what am I going to tell them? No, don't.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
this is like because it's protected. Like there's a balance. Like don't use your powers for evil. But you don't want them to necessarily like forget those powers either, because you want them to be able to deal with the monsters that are really out there.
Yeah.
Right? So it's kind of like, what do I do? Then I go to the other big man upstairs. You did this to me on purpose for everything I did, right? It's like, yep.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's funny to talk about like the way people express anger because my dad would always lose his temper. He had a terrible temper, like an incredibly kind man, but like you'd hear him down in his shop and like everything would be fine and there'd be a clang and then it's like all the swears start and I got that too, except mine is very reserved and cold typically. And as someone who often gets misunderstood, I'm very careful with my words, and so I get incredibly eloquent and incredibly collected. And I remember someone at one point like told me something terrible, and I just sat there and I just started laughing a little bit, and that was like my only response. And they're like, um, that's not that's
That's
not
not what I
okay.
was
That's not okay.
expecting.
I don't like that.
Actually, the most terrifying thing you can do to people like that is in suddenly be kind to them. Don't know what to do.
Yep.
I am that mean. Yeah, and yes, folks, I am that mean person that will screw you that way. I will be kind. I might even help you. And they will look at you and go, "What is this? Like, this is how?" Because it's there's nothing that says you mean so little to me that I'm
Right.
actually here. You're gonna help me, right?
Like it doesn't
But
matter. It's fine.
yeah, just do what you want.
Mhm.
Here, I might recommend this. But I thought it's like I don't care, right? And again,
Yeah.
you get like at a younger age, that stuff works a lot more for the most part.
Mhm.
At an older age, you just don't give less and less of a shit. Although I think in your case, just based on what I've seen so far, right? See, there's a lot that goes on in those eyes of yours. There's a lot of thoughts that dance. You have, but you, I wouldn't. I don't know if it's OCD exactly. Again, you do. You measure everything you say. You measure everything you
Mhm.
do. I imagine it makes you an excellent writer too, because again, you this approach allows you to really think things through and how you do things, right? The only thing about someone like you is if you ever overload,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Because if you overload, what tends to happen with you is all that careful reserve just goes completely down the shit.
like all at
That
once. Just
yes, no, you don't.
and we're done. Yeah.
It's a structure. It's like I'll equate it to pipes,
Mhm.
like right. If you let off a little steam here, a little steam there, you're fine,
Right.
right. You're fine. But if somehow, some way, there's some clogging in the plumbing, oh shit, it's just gone. You get unleashed, and everybody just flees in terror. And then when you come right, and when it's all done, you come
Like,
back to
"Whoa."
Earth, and then the bombs have gone off, and there's like nothing left but like a wake of destruction around you. You're like, oh damn, what did I
Crater.
do? And
Yeah.
everybody's like, please stop, right?
So, do you find when you're writing angry characters, do you find that you try and put, like, the same type of anger that you have? Or do you, like, do you mix it up or whatever
Oh,
with
I
your
definitely mix it up. It depends on, like, for example. So I'll tell you, my first villain is Percival. So I mixed him up with Rasputin and made him like a genie. Because I
Mhm.
thought of all the knights of the round, like
Yeah.
that fits him the best.
Mhm.
So when he gets angry, he has that momentary sneer. He reacts at first, but then he pauses and then he thinks,
Mhm.
right? He's vindictive, right? He will find the way to hurt you the most with what you want,
Mhm.
because he understands that everybody does what they want more than most. And he's not afraid to dole out punishment by giving you your wish, but not in the way you've expected. So he's got like he's
Yeah.
vindictive and a vindictive kind of anger. Then I had another villain, like, so I used Jason on the Argonauts in my last release. So Jason's anger was that he's always supposed to win. Expectations.
Mhm.
So he just lashes out and he doesn't care. I'm the favored one. I am
Mhm.
the chosen. So he's an arrogant fuck. So he's very open with his anger because he's ultimately he's the equivalent of a bully. He
Mhm.
will display his might as long as there's no repercussions, right? So there's different degrees of anger. The closest character to my anger, how I get angry was, let me think about this. In my novels, not one of the characters so far has come close to my level of anger. One of the knights of the round will, though, at some
Mhm.
point.
Spoiler
Right?
alert.
Yeah, one of them will. One of them. But not Percival, not the first one.
Mhm.
He's got a very different psychology.
Yeah.
Right? I understand how my anger works. My family's Maltese. I have that fiery temper. I lash out at the
Mhm.
beginning, but not completely. Right? I lash out, and then I take, like, after I let off the initial steam, I take it in and I think about it.
Mhm.
Because there's that moment, am I right to be angry? Now that the initial emotions react, now I analyze it a little bit.
Right.
Right?
Mhm.
That's what it is. I'm still angry. I still hold on to it. I haven't completely let it go, but now I'm in a place in my head where it's like I can teeter back to nothing,
Mhm.
or I could teeter even more, depending on the person's response.
Mhm.
There's right. That's the kind of
Right.
right. I let off some steam, and it clears my head. Now, in the moment when I let off steam, that's when I can do the most damage to somebody because I'm not seeing clearly
Mhm.
until I let off a little bit of that steam, right? But usually to get me to that point, that does take a lot of work. I'm pretty calm for all things
Mhm.
considered. You have to work at it. So I don't usually feel as bad, but again, younger me made mistakes. Older me realizes that sometimes people just don't see it the same way you do. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean though I don't lash out the first time. Again, it's just
Mhm.
acknowledging my characteristics. I need that or I really will hurt somebody.
Yeah.
You, but you're trying not to hurt anybody. Sometimes means you hurt yourself.
Yeah, yeah, more often than not,
Yeah,
which is,
yeah.
like, it's sort of fun, like, because one of my characters, like, superficially, I think a lot of people think is very similar to me, same job and all that, and, also, it, like, takes place, at least for the most part, kind of in our world. And everyone's like, "Oh, but" and this is we were just talking off air about, swearing and swearing online. And, someone was like, "Oh, well, the author's so nice online, but, like, in the books, like, there's all this swearing and all this anger and all this stuff." I'm like, "Oh, so I need to swear more online, don't I now? Because I'm sending the wrong message. They think I'm nice." And and that's one of the things that's so much fun, at least to write Nell, my current main character, is, like, she just flies off the handle all the time and then sticks to her guns even though it's, like, the worst position to be in, like, "No, no, I was terribly wrong, and I'm just gonna stick to it." Like, I'm
I
gonna make
I
all the
I I
mistakes.
I
It's really
I
fun.
do it sounds like there is a little bit of wish fulfillment though in that.
Yeah, well, and that's what I always say is, like,
Yeah.
the way she's most similar to me is she gets to say all the stuff I can't. Which, I mean, isn't entirely true, but, maybe more often than not. Definitely
Mm.
how I approached things when I was younger, when I was just, like, angry all the time, always, at everything. So
Well, it's interesting the mechanisms we build for
Mhm.
ourselves, right?
Yeah,
I just let it go because then once it's done, I don't have to worry about it anymore,
right.
right? It's not in my system. And again, as we talked about, I mean, I opened this thing with like sliding down the ice with snow. I'm crazy, but I'm not exactly right. I'm not exactly the angry type. But
Mhm.
what I realized, what I've learned in this life, and this is what has worked for me, you have to find healthy ways to let all those emotions out.
Right.
You
Yeah.
have to learn to let them go.
Mhm.
And to do that, you must acknowledge and express them in
Yeah.
some way or another. So, just based on our conversation, I would say um, that'd be the only thing I am a little worried about with you, right? Because it's that constructive way of letting yourself
Mhm.
having buffers.
Yeah.
You acknowledge you're angry. I don't think you deny that, but you also have to put yourself in a place where you don't always necessarily feel the full extent of your anger,
Right.
right?
Yep. Well, it's
So,
not always productive too, right? I mean, like,
well,
it
no,
feels
no,
great sometimes, but not
no, but but there is a point where it is, and where
Mhm.
what I would say to where it is yeah, it's not productive every moment of every day. I've seen people wear their anger like a sleeve, it gives them a source of strength.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, there are things in life that anger does nothing to, and
Yeah.
those people I have never really faced those moments, and I can tell it's like your anger can blind because it feels like passion. It feels
Mhm.
like a shot of adrenaline and can feel that way. But and you recognize that. It's like it can blind, but at the same time, it's that okay, I have all kinds of nasty petty thoughts in this noggin. I do. I have all kinds of them. I let myself feel them all
Mhm.
because even though I'm not every moment because I'm not that crazy because then you just become that.
Right.
But but I give myself that moment. Um. Okay. So like how do I put this? I'm good with giving myself that minute or two though,
Right.
where I
Just,
just
like,
go.
sit with it and then
Well, just even let it out. If I have to
Mhm.
scream, I scream. If I have to shout, I shout. Like there's strength. You to truly let go of an emotion, you have to let yourself feel it,
Mhm.
even if it's not always. You might lose time, But on the other hand, maybe that pipe valve system becomes a little less complex,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Little
So
bleeder valve.
yeah, right. It becomes a little less complex because you just
Mhm.
because you let those things go, right?
Yeah.
You, like I said, I feel you are very honest with yourself. I don't feel there's like that like I feel like you're the last person you bullshit. Right.
Mhm.
I just get that feeling. You can look at yourself in the mirror honestly in the morning. It's like, you know what? I fucked up. You
Yeah.
know what? I did great. You know what? I did this. Right.
Mhm.
Because that is healthy. And I think, like I said, so you acknowledging things just based on
Mhm.
this conversation, I don't think you have a problem doing. I think though with you, it's letting yourself, giving yourself that permission to feel those things. I feel you don't always do that. And maybe you should just a touch more, right?
It's funny what you're saying about, like, we all have, like, mean-spirited thoughts or petty thoughts, and, it just, like, before this interview, um, I'll try and do this thing more recently, it's like a conscious thing where, we all have uncharitable thoughts, like, more often than we would, like, ever admit. But, like, lately, I've been trying to just, like, you only are allowed to really entertain and foster one uncharitable thought a day. Like, I mean, you're gonna have a lot of them, but you're only allowed to dwell on one uncharitable
Yes.
thought a day. I definitely don't always succeed, it's very difficult sometimes, um, with certain people more often than others. But that's why we write villains in our books to get out that
Note to s-
aggression.
note to self. If B bases a villain on you, you done fucked up. It's like, what did I
I
do?
try not to do, like, I was saying this in an earlier interview too. I was like, I try not to write in real people who end up dying because I feel like that's just like asking for like badness. that's that's just I'm not gonna mess with that.
So
But terrible things, yes.
I don't know if that's better or worse. Actually, I'm actually not sure.
That's
So
right. We were just talking about like, oh well, wouldn't you rather just like die than just be living in your own personal hell? So I don't know, maybe not.
No, I'll tell you what I do to people I don't like. I'm might be crueler than even you are. Here's what I do. I won't kill them because lots of people go. Here's the thing. Go. Who wants to die in my book? You'll actually get people go.
Right.
Oh, me,
Mhm.
me. Right. So it's like, and I'll never get over that for as long as I live. It's like, really? It's gonna be gruesome. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
awesome.
perfect.
Yeah. That's the thing. I'm not cruel enough to put them in hell. But I
Mhm.
remember you're a Babylon 5 fan?
I haven't watched it. It's so like again, like grew up with like nothing until I was
No.
15.
Okay,
So
okay. So
I'm playing catch up.
the actors that played Jakar and Londo
Mhm.
played a mean trick on the creator of the series, who also wrote the majority of the episodes. So he got revenge on them. This is what he did. He gave one of them. He wrote a script. It's called the Jakar and Londo sex scene, and it is literally he changes the sex of one of the characters, and they end up having sex. And then I realized that is truly what to do to people you don't like. You make them fan fiction. That's what you do, right? You
That's
make them.
yeah, all
Yeah,
right.
right. That's like it's actually a beautiful revenge because it's overall it's harmless, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't actually do anything like life changing or
Right.
altering. It's just really awkward for them to read themselves in bizarre sex positions with other people. They don't know what to do with that, right? It's like, right. So it's like, why did you do this? Because I wanted to immortalize you for all the things you made me do. I decided to do it this way. Now, see the
Now you
other
feel
thing too.
just as awkward. Yeah.
Yeah, right, and right. Well, no. See, I see. Here's the thing. I look at it like this. Like it's a literal fuck, if you know what I mean. Like it's a really good play on that whole concept, and that's why I am a monster, right? Because I know, right? I know how to do terrible revenge on people. I will never do it. I will base characters on people I know, experiences on people I know,
Mhm.
but in the books, but I will not like unless it calls for it. If the character dies because it tells a story, that's
Mhm.
different. But I would never deliberately write somebody just to kill them or write somebody to put them in a weird personal hell. Here's
Mhm.
another really personal, really weird hell. Put them in the land of endless elevator music.
That would be
That'd be epic hell.
no.
Yeah, like see, again, and see, nothing I'm saying here is outwardly punishing,
Right,
right?
right.
Right?
It's probably not
But
even
it
illegal.
no, that's the thing. It's
I
not
mean, I
even
guess you're
close.
entrapment, right? You're
Well,
entrapping someone.
no, 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 no. You have an open space, and no matter which way you go, elevator music, right?
So when I worked night shift and as a healthcare worker, they had this like I guess it's like Muzak or whatever, right? So it's like the elevator music version of songs you used to like and now no longer can listen to, and just all night, just really low, so you couldn't like always hear it, but it was like technically always there. And like to this day, whenever I walk into like a store that might have it, it's just like no, like I just can't, like, and all
See,
night it's like these people are sleeping, for God's sakes.
see, see that again. Like you've been punished without actually ever being actually punished. It's
Right.
beautiful. It's beautiful, and right because it's just like I said. Like putting them in like so my idea for the elevator music it did come from a video game. The game was
Mhm.
Devil May Cry. There's a scene,
Oh yeah.
right? There's a scene where after he's killed all the demons, he goes into the elevator, he climbs. And just this really
Just
terrible.
going, just going.
Yeah, and then finally he gets to right before he gets to the top, it's like I'm really in hell. Holy shit, I'm really in
Yeah.
hell. Never mind, he's fighting demons and stuff on the outside. Just nope. Just that whole thing was just like that moment was that's the only time Dante actually was like, I'm in hell. Not when he fought the monsters, not when he was killing demons. No.
It's like I was telling my spouse, I was like, like the biggest asshole thing you've ever done. He's like, oh no. And I'm like, no, the worst asshole thing you've ever done was put on unsolicited, like bad like white people jazz, not like good jazz, because there is good jazz, but like bad white people jazz, and just left the room. Like, like you just put it on, just left the room. Like, what are you doing? Not only did you do this, but now you're leaving me alone with it. And I don't know how to work the PlayStation, so it's like I can't turn it off. It was awful. It's like that was the worst thing you've ever done.
That hurt me. Stop.
I
Don't
know,
do
it
that
was
again.
bad. He's never done it since, to be fair.
Well, no, because again, it's not something you expect to make people suffer, right? 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 It's those little things, right? Like again, it's not the big stuff. Kill me. Okay. You got it right. Make me do tax forms. That's a bizarre form of cruel and unusual punishment, but okay.
At least you get something done.
Yeah, exactly. Have a choice between chocolate and vanilla ice cream and not being able to eat either of them. That's also hell. That's also hell, right? See, again, it's the little things in life. Joy is the true is what makes life bearable. And as long as there's joy, most of the rest of the other bullshit that's going on in the world does not really matter. It's when you have the loss of joy
Right.
that you have to really do it, because you take that joy away, all you have is the wonderful pain. And she's like, burn in hell out there.
I was like, I'm turning too red, and then like that's worse. That's worse. Okay. There we go.
So
Need to get the light.
I do a show for an immigration company, and so we were doing we do the show right now still on Zoom, and so our new co-host is tried to turn Zoom on. He became like this invisible ghost, this white demon, because of the Zoom background and the lighting in his house. It's just like, oh, like
Not good.
it's like we filmed the scene without this background for him, because it's like, you know what?
No.
We're changing the show anyway. They can only yell at us once for this, right? Shrug. Right?
I guess it'll be fine. Yeah. Oh
They're
man.
like, why did you do that? The alternative was worse.
Mhm.
Like there was one. Okay, so my first video experience. Okay, green screen behind me will always give me a little bit of nightmares, right? Because so we did this. So this guy filmed the show, right, for like magazines, building some footage and stuff like that. I never thought in my life, like the purpose of the green screen is to alter it to a much more pleasant background. I never thought there would be a day that the green screen was the better alternative. My first video experience was a guy, he filmed it where the people in different places. So it ended up happening. There's two scenes I will never forget for as long as I live. First scene, when you put the background in, it cut the person perfectly in half. Filmed out and in, it's like, what just happened? Right? Right? That sounds hilarious. Here's the second one. This one I will always remember for as long as I live, because I did not film this. I had to try to edit this, and oh my God. So they decided to, instead of couldn't get access to that classroom to do the green screen, could they create a makeshift one with a green curtain at the front entrance of the school.
Mm-hmm.
The sun was setting and people were leaving. So guess what happened on that green screen during interviews?
People just popping in and out.
No, people are leaving. People
Yeah.
are leaving. So they're not going to leave that way. They blocked the cordon that off.
Oh, okay, good.
No, it turned nightfall. So what happens when the cars turn on their lights and start driving away?
Oh no.
You can't fix that.
Oh no, that's awful. See, these are perfect reasons. My friend was just asking, like, oh well, why didn't you just, like, you missed the opportunity when you were painting your office walls to paint them green screen green, because then you can put whatever you want in the background. I'm like, yeah, I don't have the skill set for that, and like, I just don't think it would end well.
See, I think it would end fantastic, but I'm a sadistic
Right.
man, as you
Well,
can tell.
you have one behind you. So.
Well, no, no. In my case, I know what I'm doing, but the fact that you
Right.
don't know what you're doing, I would still enjoy it, but for entirely the wrong reasons, right? Entirely the wrong reasons. You're terrible, but I like it, right? And
No.
just like, there's something appealing about a car crash that isn't yours. Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, it's the was it Schadenfreude or whatever? I'm probably mispronouncing it.
Yeah. I can't remember the comedian's name, but he talked about that. It's like, yeah. So, two things that are absolutely hilarious when they're not you is a car crash and getting arrested. Right? They are absolutely hilarious if it's not you. If it is you, it's not fun at all. Right?
Bad news. See, I usually have the, like, once I'm through the ordeal, whatever it is, it's hysterical. It's
Mhm.
ridiculously funny.
Mhm.
But like I have to get through it.
No,
and
no,
sometimes
see,
people aren't up to like the same pace. Like, oh, we've both experienced the same thing, and I already think it's like really really funny, and like an hour later, and they're like, no, it's not. You can't. This will not be funny for years.
no, but again, going back to something I said earlier, you need to get those, like you said, there's a buildup, you got to let off some steam.
Mhm.
So once you process the fact that this is actually over,
Right.
you let it out, you clear your system, and you're good, right? It's like, oh, I can let this go, right? And that's not a terrible thing, right? It's actually it's a great thing. Hey, if you can laugh off anything, tomorrow really is another day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, I always try and like, so someone was saying like you end up in these like ridiculous situations and like it's somehow fine, and like what, like how are you fine with with like these ridiculous situations? I'm like, well, it makes for a good story, like if nothing else. If nothing else, it's really funny for everyone else. So
It depends on how you got there too. Like
right.
if it was right, if it's your fault, it's funny because you were dumb enough to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Going to get that right to pursue stupid shit for no
Yep.
good reason whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Super important in this world, ladies and gentlemen. The right to be stupid is actually a blessing in disguise. Enjoy it if you got it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And also the other thing too, if you are surrounded by people who don't like who are, admire the fact that they're still doing their thing. and learn from them. The one very most important lesson of all, they just do stuff, right? And that's good, right? There's nothing you can do about it, right? And then there's the other end of it when you just find yourself like, there's only one time I really hate being in situations, and that's like when I'm the adult in the situation.
Right. You're like, I need an adultier adult because this is
no.
bad.
I don't feel like I need to be an adultier adult. Like for me, I just get mad. Why the fuck is this me? Why are you making me do this? Right? I don't want to be that guy, but I'm looking around like, oh God, I am that guy. What the fuck? Right? Then I'm mad. Now I'm not like, I don't need an adult. I can do it. Always can do it. I don't want to do it. And if you're making me do something I don't want to do, I'm just not.
Dig your heels in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, I'm okay. You want to take charge? Knock yourself out. If I have to take charge, right? I don't want to. It's work. I'm lazy. Like, I've been talking to you for over an hour now. Like, there's a reason this is easy for me. I don't have to work hard, right? Right? So
that's fair.
Yeah. So there's all that. So we probably should talk about some of the other stuff you do. I've enjoyed this so far. I have enjoyed this so far, but I do feel like I only got you for so much longer. So we probably should be mentioning some stuff here. So you're a sci-fi science fiction author. So I've asked this question to a lot of authors lately. I'm going to ask you the same question. What was the book that made you go, I want to do this?
The book that I read?
Yes.
That made me want to do that?
We all have one.
So I think for me, I mean, there's definitely been a lot of worlds and a lot of characters that, I was just like, oh, like that was awesome. I want to see if I can, emulate some of those styles and stuff. But as like a kid, when I first saw a character who looked like me on the front cover. So, this sort of androgynous tomboy, redheaded person holding a sword. And the first time I saw that, I was just like, I didn't know, I was maybe 12 or 13, it took a while. And my mind just like exploded. And I thought like, okay, so if this like stocky redheaded author can write characters who look like me, doing things that are awesome and like making mistakes and all that stuff, maybe I could do that too. And I think it wasn't so much like I want to, it was more like a I can. And that was really, really big. So that was Alana by Tamara Pierce.
Okay.
Older school.
Tamara.
Is it YA?
Yeah, no, it's YA.
Or middle grade. Yeah, I can't remember like what age range she technically falls into.
The Tamara Pierce does not get. I mean, she still gets love, but she doesn't get the. She's still like at this day and age where YA currently is today. I don't think she gets mentioned in the same breath that she should. Don't get me wrong. Sarah J. Maas is awesome. Right. Victoria Avery's awesome. There's a lot of really great YA books right now from a lot of great authors. Tamara Pierce, before J.K. Rowling, Diane Duane. Before there's another person I want to mention, and male author did kind of like his version of a time traveler. Like I can't remember what it was called.
That does ring a bell. Yeah, I mean there's probably like hundreds, right? But yeah, she never really went, and I think part of it was when she was really, I mean, like not to say she's not in her prime, but when she was really publishing a lot and putting out a lot of books, the internet wasn't the same.
No.
Or even there to some extent, nearly as accessible. So like the whole viral thing wasn't a thing.
Well, it's also she just so happened to be doing really great books in the middle of the Harry Potter boom. That was the other thing too.
Oh yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, I came to Harry Potter late and then left early. So
no, it's fine. I get it. Like, but when the Harry Potter boom was in its apex,
that's true. Yeah, it was about
whatever you may think about Rowling was a big proponent of where YA went afterwards, right? But prior to Rowling exploding, You
Mhm.
had Tamara Pierce. You had Diane Duane.
Mm.
That name. I'm going to be so mad at myself.
You're gonna, like, scream it in the middle of the night because 'cause you're gonna
Yeah.
remember.
No, it's gonna come. It's gonna come right at the end of this conversation when we logged out. I was like, shit, I knew that, right? Right. That's what it's gonna be.
Oh.
But they were doing great, and there's another one too, and I have two more in my head that I can think of. They were doing great books in a time where Harry Potter was sucking all the oxygen up,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
So, and Tamara was still doing great books after that too.
Right.
But then what tended to happen is like YA's kind of gone through what I call like the three phases of growth. There
Mhm.
was the Harry Potter saga. Twilight, although it did fill the gap a little bit, it wasn't. I'm not trying to discredit Stephanie Meyer's success because it was
Mhm.
successful, but to me, I think it was the Hunger Games
Yes.
that went to the next phase of the YA movie. And now the YA
Mhm.
movie is kind of evolving again because to me, publishing's in an interesting place.
Yeah.
Um, the snake is swallowing its own tail, and you can
Mhm.
see it. At the same time, there are so many options beyond as well.
Yeah.
And so like again, speaking of if you want to talk about decentralization, it starts with publishing of all the places.
Mhm.
It's where it starts. Science fiction and fantasy, depending on what you write, traditional publishing isn't the answer anymore. And it still
No.
can be. It
Right.
still can be depending on what you are doing, but not necessarily.
Right.
But where traditional publishing still has a very strong like market presence is young adult. That's starting to change too.
Mhm.
And when that goes, okay, because it will inevitably, it might take a few more years, right? Because now we've hit the what I call the YA nostalgia line and the
Mhm.
YA new voices line. Because
Yep.
YA has evolved to such a different space than where it was 20 years ago. Old fucks like myself are like, back in my day, these things were great. And there's that nostalgia pop for that.
Mhm.
But then there's also the fact that okay, like I'm doing an Alice in Wonderland Greek mythology kind of mashup book.
That's fun.
That yeah, which is also has a board game component to it.
Oh, cool.
I can't go to a publisher with that. I
Right.
just can't.
I mean, they are like one thing I have been seeing, and again, like maybe this is just a product of who I happen to follow because like I'm weird, but I am noticing that they are picking up more weird
Yes.
books, but it's still like oftentimes they are a little more sanitized weird. And I do think, and I don't know what those books necessarily looked like before they got their hands on them. Because obviously, and editors are fantastic. But obviously there are a lot of changes that might not be about the quality and more about the content that are happening. And I don't see those, but I think it is neat that there is more weirdness happening.
Yeah.
And I hope that maybe people are going to put more emphasis on all different types of publishing, which has been happening in the adult market, especially with romance and stuff. I
Oh,
think.
well, the thing is, I think what happened with romance is going to happen with YA if they're not careful.
Mhm.
And that's this. What killed romance with traditional publishing was speed.
Yeah.
That's what killed it. I think YA is going to fit a similar. We've come to that interesting place where producing work is easier than it ever was,
Mhm.
right? It's still super valuable too. In fact, in some ways, the more work produced, the more valuable it actually has ironically become, right? In some ways less, in some ways more. There's an argument a little bit on both ends of that spectrum. I acknowledge that. I'm
Mhm.
right. But one of the things is we're still not really tapping into all that stuff. So someone's going to figure out, or someone like crazy like me is going to be like, okay, let's let's try telling stories in all these other wonderful different ways and kind of see what
Right.
happens. And I might accidentally hit a home run, or maybe you accidentally hit a home run. And if a publisher comes to you about it, do you really want to do business with them at this
Right.
point? And that's a very and that's not a cut and dried answer anymore.
No. Well, and I think a lot of us, we look at the marketing budgets, especially, at least for me, I think that would be one of the biggest draws is the marketing budget behind a lot of these huge publishers. And it's like, I cannot do that. There is not a world that I could actually have that budget and do those things, just with little old me. Um, and there is a huge draw on that, and there is, something to the reach that they have. But then I will also see, like little smaller books with smaller, maybe indie presses or boutique presses, and they go viral. They get hugely popular, and it's tough. It's like there's no real way to recreate that. So like, is that really what you want to sign away for?
Well, it's also just the other thing, right? For example, you are VS Holmes and you rock. You put up with me for over an hour. So again, I mean, you rock. So here's the thing. You're probably what we would call a mid-lister, right? You're right. You're probably like you're a mid-list author. So for you, your money is your backlist. More so, like, don't get me wrong, your front list is important. You gotta keep making shit, but you care about your backlist. So I'm one of these weird creative freaks that have cool books that people are like, hey, that's a cool surprise. But I'm not. It's not there yet. And I've accepted the fact that that's going to be my career. I'm probably going to have like one big giant home run somewhere down the road and be like, and a bunch of other just weird little projects. I'm good with that. I don't need. I'm okay with my own corner of the universe. But that's the thing. Your own corner of the universe can be super big and exciting in of itself.
Right.
Even if you never get that viral hit, right? You get you can still do a lot of great books. And if you do a lot of great books, holy shit, V.S. Holmes is the shiz.
Well, it's your definition of success, right?
Yeah,
like
right.
it goes back to that. And if that's if your corner of the world is your definition of success, which I sort of hope most people's is, because I think that's the most attainable. Then that's great. And I think a lot of authors are actually seeing that now, especially like you said, a lot of huge changes are happening in publishing, and people are being very vocal about those changes, which is great because we need to. But I do think it has disillusioned a lot of people too. And I'm kind of curious where that's going to take publishing in general, not just YA, but I think YA is sort of a good barometer in a lot of cases.
Well, why is it a good barometer? Because it's the traditional, markets that I still think biggest stronghold overall. It's classics too. Like they're always going to have a classic market that does well. But when you look at classics and you look at YA, those are their biggest sellers. Fantasy does okay, but it's not necessarily, again, not every fantasy book belongs in traditional publishing anymore.
Yeah. Well, and fantasy has kind of leveled out in a lot of ways. Not obviously not in content, but I feel like it has matured, as far as market wise, and that's nice. It's a little more predictable.
Well, see, I think what's happening, like again, if we're gonna go to the traditional indie kind of slash. I'm gonna. Do you know who Michael Sullivan is?
Yeah, the name sounds familiar.
He's a fantasy author. He does old school style fantasy. His market is old fucks like myself, right? But that's his market, right? He made a conscious, like, look, there's a certain style of fantasy story in the 80s and 90s we grew up with.
The covers were great too.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Like real fun covers. Yeah.
Oh, it's the cool shit, right?
Yeah.
Like my favorite era of science fiction is the dime novel era because those are cool fucking looking books, right?
Yeah.
So
I like the used bookstores. I love finding those because it's just like.
So wait. We just gotta say this. So yes or no, Roger Zelazny?
I don't know that one. Am I writing this down? Where's my pen and pencil?
You should. Okay. Oh my god.
Really
oh my god. So look up a book called Nine Princes in Amber.
Oh, that sounds familiar. I'm pretty bad with other. Okay.
Yeah.
That does.
Yeah. It's one of my all-time favorite fantasy series, science fiction / fantasy series. The first 5 books are great. The second 5 books aren't so great. I'm not going to lie about that. But no, because it's 2 different series, and
Okay.
he rehashed the first 5 is a complete cycle in of itself. It's like the Bulgariad and the Malorian for David Eddings,
Yeah. Okay.
right? The Bulgariad's really fun. The Malorian's okay. It's a nice if you want to be still reading about those characters, great. It's the
Some
same
resolution you get, yeah.
It's the same story by
Mhm.
and large, right? You
Yeah.
got I think the Bulgariad's the really good one. The Malorian is the okay one, and then David Eddings, the rest of his career, it depends on how you define it. My favorite book of his, actually single book of his, is The Losers, but my favorite fantasy book of his is The Redemption of Altus. He did it in one book. I was really impressed. That was really cool. But like I said, I'm an old school guy, right? So that's right. So I love that era. There's a market for that, and there's a huge market for that traditional is not touching. And
Right.
then there's an argument for it too. Like I'm going to throw a devil's advocate here for a second. Traditional art publishing should be seeking new voices, new content, new ways of telling things. Absolutely. So but here's the thing. I think this is where traditional is going to have to overcome. They have a speed problem.
Yeah.
They have a huge speed problem, and it's killing them. Right? It's absolutely killing them. And if they don't fix that problem, 10 years from now, they will be extinct. That's where it's going. I give it 10 more years. The big 4 will become the big 3, and the big 3 will become the big 2.
One. Yeah. We're already like halfway there, aren't we?
I don't know if it gets to big 1, but I could see it getting to big 2, right? And then what happens there is, because again, monopolies and stuff like that'll happen.
Yeah.
So that they may not be able to go beyond big 2, but there's going to be that this goes on, I said earlier, the mechanisms that worked in the past don't work anymore. And I think every industry is feeling that. Publishing just got there first.
Right.
But everything's feeling that. Right? Does big government make sense anymore? No, it actually doesn't. Like, it legitimately does not. It does, as a mechanism, it doesn't work. But how do you fix that? So, right, if they fight it, inevitably the government's going to go up in smoke. It's going to become smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and redundant, and then finally, gone. Right? That's it. Right now, it's not. It's usually a very messy end to get to the poof gone, but that's the thing. And same thing with publishing. Publishing is going to like, they gotta solve the speed issue.
Yeah.
If they don't, like, because my big advantage over them is, okay, if I wanted to, I could keep writing more Alice books quickly. Part of me has a strategy to think maybe I should, but the reality is I have my own. I very much made a decision telling stories I want to tell. Right. I will make my zillions and zillions of dollars doing all my crazy shit, and and that's how I've accepted it. And if I don't, I accept that too. It's just one of those things. Like, I've learned, I've lived with it. Unrealistic, unattainable goals. I'm not sure I buy that, but I also realize that the universe does not play fair, and I'm good with that too, right? So, but that's just it. You gotta live with the risk in life you're willing to take. But as an indie or as a hybrid,
Yeah.
I can dance so many different circles before a traditional publisher even takes the first breath. So why would I? And I think the biggest part of the market that's going to get hit the hardest, actually, really soon, if it hasn't started already, is agents.
And
Because
a lot of people are leaving the industry too. I've seen. I mean, like, that could be for other unrelated reasons, but I have been noticing that as well.
yeah, because what's the big argument for getting an agent? You get to the top of the slush pile. Well, if there's only so many slush piles and there's that many agents, well, there's going to be like a battle royal to like get down to the nitty gritty. And there are going to be agents that still do really good there. But where I think a lot of agents are going to end up going is they're going to go to indie publisher. Like someone like you, it's like, I don't know how to market, and I don't even know how to operate my PlayStation. The agent goes, okay, I'll help you.
As long as it's not on PlayStation, we're fine.
Yeah. Right. But I mean, that's where it's going. The agents are going to become more service oriented towards authors. You can see that's where that's going.
Yeah.
Right. So they're going to get there. They're starting to get there now. They're going to get there in a couple years. But like I said, but looking at the industry, honestly, look, I had a friend of mine. She just did have you heard of Unbound?
Yeah.
Right? She's doing a book on Unbound that should be an automatic slam dunk like pitch. He pitched it to me off the air. I was like, I'm not even into that thing.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I want to buy this book because it's such an interesting story all the
Mhm.
way around. There's a lot of angles to market that you can do some really incredible things with. And that's the other end of it too. Okay. So the business has changed. We all are in one way, it's like, oh, Tim, we're all crazy fans of something,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So if I go to you, hey V, you like those old school dime novel stuff? Here you go. And you'll be like tears in the eyes.
Yeah.
How much? $20. Shut up and take my
Sure.
money.
Sure.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Mhm.
right, yeah,
It's
right.
I mean, that happens, like, thankfully, like, thank God for Twitter. Like, my reading list never ends. It's great because like, someone will just tweet something, and it'll go past my feed, and it's like, "I've never met this person, I don't know anything, but, like, you said gay orcs? Sign me up, please."
Yeah.
I don't care how much money you want, like, you can have all of it.
Yeah, no, that's it, right? No, it's just
Mhm.
like but that's it. Like you recognize like who your audiences are
Right.
for, right? Who are your books for? In my book, epic poetry, Alice in Wonderland, Greek mythology mashup. Is the average reader going to read this? Probably not. But
Your
we're
average
not.
theater kid?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, Alice in Wonderland fans.
Mhm.
It's like, wait, what? You did what? How did you do that? And they go probably
Mhm.
read. It's like, holy shit, is this good? My guest yesterday, I gave her the synopsis of my story. She was like,
Mhm.
I'm just buying it. Just shut up and take my money. Just like, because I always do it at the end of the show, right?
Mhm.
And, but again, it's recognizing the fact that you have a product that sells
Mhm.
is fantastic. Going one step further, it's understanding how to reach your readers. That's the real challenge.
Right.
And honestly, that's newsletters, that's coming on shows like mine and trying
Mhm.
not to go, fuck, he talks a lot, right? Right.
Just, like, talk out of Oh.
But that's the whole point, right? Like you
Mhm.
have to figure out how to reach people. That's your real challenge. The
Yeah.
rest is the rest.
Mhm.
Right? And that's it, right? Like you don't have to do like I think in one sense, I think authors, and I think every author is guilty of this, myself included, we don't realize how awesome our shit is.
Right.
And
Like, "I guess it's okay." It's like,
I
"No,
guess
don't
it's
do that." Like
yeah. Well, I again, but it's like okay, you missed out on a lot of cool things. This might not be considered a cool thing. Did you ever watch pro wrestling?
No, no, but, I one of my ex's moms was, like, fixated on
Okay,
it. So
okay. So
I have seen it, and it's hysterical.
yeah, no, it is.
Okay.
So my favorite wrestler of all time is Macho Man Randy Savage. Right? I'm not gonna lie. Like he is like he in the ring he was great, but like when he was doing interviews. So back in my day, shut up, clouds. Back in my day, right? Right. When I was starting to watch wrestling, they would do these backstage little like vignettes where the announcer would interview these wrestlers about coming to town to wrestle. Because back in the day, wrestlers made their money by getting people to come into the arena. Now think about how
Mhm.
hard that actually is.
Right.
Right. You were trying to get somebody to get off their fat ass and go, well, should I go to the show to watch people beat your ass up?
Mhm.
This guy made millions doing it. And what he did was he looked at what he was and looked at what he wasn't, and he emphasized what he was.
Yeah.
My favorite wrestling promo of all time is from him. It's when he right after he lost a title. There's an interview where it's called "The Cream Rises to the Top." He's actually wearing coffee. He's got coffee creamers in there. He is legitimately nuts.
Yeah.
It's one of the best marketing lessons I've ever learned too, because it's like, okay, this is the most absurd shit I've ever seen in my life. It's unbelievably absurd. But this guy talked people into buildings
Mhm.
for years. How did he actually do it? And the answer I came to, it's like, you know what he did? He embraced who he was.
Yeah.
And he didn't, like, the character was a little over the top because you're on television, you're trying to be as large as you can be.
Right. I mean, he's a
But
character.
yeah, he's a character, but that character is based on the real person in there
Right.
on some level. And he was able to bring the parts of him out that showed personality, charisma, and he made people, he established a connection to the audience. This wrestling promo I'm talking about is over
Mhm.
30 years old. And I can remember this shit,
Right.
right?
It worked.
So it worked, right?
Mhm.
It worked.
That's
So
it's one of my favorite quotes is Dolly Parton, which is, "Find out who you are and then do it on purpose."
mhm,
I mean, it's and it works, and I guess the hardest part is finding out who you are, right?
yeah. No,
And
it's
then
it.
being okay with that.
Well, you should be okay with that.
Yeah,
It's you.
you have no choice.
There's only ever going to be one person like you in this
Mhm.
life, and that's a wonderful thing because that means you only come once. And that might sound like really, really like lame and corny, but it's actually true. Every time you get a chance to meet somebody, it's an opportunity.
Mhm.
Every time. Even if that person is a complete asshole or is crazy like me, it's a one-time only deal. Right?
Mhm. Well,
So I have this opportunity now to make a good impression on you, which I think I've
mhm.
done. I've
Oh,
made you
yeah,
laugh
no.
quite a few times in this episode.
Even if it was
And
at you.
it's okay. I was okay. I will be crying when this is over. B.S. Holmes made me cry might be how I actually open this. But no,
That's the clickbait title, right?
that's totally the clickbait title, right? And it works, right? B.S. Holmes made me cry. But the point is, every time you get a chance to meet, you have this opportunity to connect with people, and that's a
Mhm.
truly treasured opportunity, right?
Yeah.
That's what this is all about. I mean, this is kind of why I do this show. I mean, yeah, I love talking to authors and other creators about all their crazy stuff. This show is not what it was started out to be; it's evolved.
Mhm.
But the one thing that's never changed is this is, I think, the first time we've really talked. But I've had an enjoyable, memorable experience I'll never
Mhm.
forget. At least, and maybe not all the words, but the feeling I
Right.
got from the conversation. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day,
Yeah.
right?
Connection.
And that's what marketing is all about too, at
Mhm.
the end of the day. So figuring out how, like, okay, why is B.S. Holmes awesome and made of cheese? And then you take them. This sounds really like lame and corny and shit, but it's the truth. Like at the end of the day, because of the way before, back in like the 80s and 90s before the internet was out, like the books were the product and the authors made them.
Right.
But now we live in an age where we have accessibility.
Mhm.
So now you are the product
Right.
and your books are how the people support you.
Mhm. That's true.
Yeah. I think I put a thought there. I put a thought or two in your head. I'm not sure.
Well,
If that's true.
I was thinking about because I think it's a tricky balance.
Mhm.
And a lot of creators, they are stepping back a lot more from social media because they're like, I'm not a product. It's like, okay, you like no, you aren't, but you are the connection, and that's what
Mm.
people are seeking is the connection with
Mhm.
you. And sometimes that's through your characters is how people get to know you. But it's also through the way you interact with them, and like that sort of going back to that what is success, the definition of success. And I would so much rather have someone, like one person, tell me like, "Oh, you changed my life for, me reading this book, or, listening to this audiobook or something." It's like that connection is so much more important than just like, I mean, though the little marks on KDP do pay my bills sometimes, it's so much nicer to just have that connection than see that like one little tick mark. So,
Tick mark means nothing. Heck, even awards
okay.
don't really like. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I'm be
It's
very clear.
nice, but it's like,
It's not why you did this.
right.
It's nice, but it's
Mhm.
like, it's like seeing my reviews for my latest book were like from people I respect and love. Like, oh, I really liked your book. I feel good about life. Life is
Yeah.
awesome. And the world could be on fire at that moment, and I wouldn't
And it
care.
is.
Yeah. Well, the world's always on fire.
That's true.
I've already accepted it. It's basically, what is the color of the flame, and will I get high off the fumes?
Fair.
Yeah.
It's fair.
Yeah. Again, we said this. The world's on fire. You can't control it. So what can you do about it? It's like, is it the same color as last time? Yes. Okay. Is it a new color? Yeah. Is it a new color? Yes. Now it's blue. Okay. What does it smell like? It's Bernie. Okay.
Okay, good.
Okay, good. At least it's normal. It's a new one. It's green. What happened? Dude, I've had this like munchies craving for like hours.
I ate an entire cake.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh, okay. We talked little books, but we didn't get to your books. Probably should. Probably should, because I do feel that we do have a longer conversation in us, but I also feel like I really would like to do that in person someday. I think
Sure.
that'd be really cool. What I think though we should do before we fully wrap up, we'll talk about your current book, because we probably should somewhere.
I'm going to turn a light on because this isn't working.
So, folks, if you are listening to this show and not watching this show,
there we go. That's like sort of better.
When we first start, kind of.
Now I'm orange, not pink, so it's cool.
Well, you were bright red, like beyond sunbird red when we started.
Like neon.
Yeah.
Red light district.
Then I mentioned the snow stuff, and it made you laugh. So all right. Then the computer light occasionally makes you go to like this white screen. Then you tried to open the window to balance the light balance, and then you became whiter than a sheet, right? And then,
which, I mean, that's just normal. That's
yeah. But I mean, it was just that combination of all that lights. You weren't quite invisible, but you weren't the same person we started with, for sure. Yeah, exactly. And then finally, we're at orange. So
I'm buying a ring light after this. All right.
Okay.
I'm finally caving. I'm gonna have.
Okay, but before we do, because I mentioned the world being on fire. You look like you've been on fire a couple different ways with this thing. Did any of them smell different?
No, I mean, I smell toast burning, but I'm told that might be a cranial issue and
okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
No electrical fires. I think we're good.
Okay, yeah, that's all that matters, because I want to do this conversation somewhere down the road again, and I want to do it. So, but yeah, you have a recent release, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so last year, for those watching, there we go. We have light to look at it. Heretics, the fourth book in my Star's Edge Nell Bentley series, came out in May of 2021. What is time? Time doesn't exist anymore. And it's the fourth of 6 books, and I'm currently working on number 5, which is really fun for me. And for people who aren't familiar, Star's Edge is a lesbian archaeologist in space, basically. And it starts with Travelers, where Dr. Nell Bentley, who is foul-mouthed and foul-tempered, as we touched on earlier in our conversation, she discovers that her pristine archaeological site is actually the center of an intergalactic feud. And she's thrown into this high-tech, high-stakes world and really hates all of it. She's like super skeptic, not a fan of technology, really out of her element, upset that she can't have beer.
So I feel that if there's any actual similarities, those might be it. Right?
I do like tech, like I think tech is super cool. I would love to have a bionic spine, please. But yeah, no, in a lot of ways, pretty stuck in my ways. And she went into space for a cute butt, and I mean, I'd probably go into space for less. So
yeah. No, it's fair. It's fair. I'm just bringing this up because it sounds to me like you should literally have a PlayStation scene in that book. Because if she hates technology, that's like that would be a very bizarre form of hell. And also, it's like, share my pain. Also, going back to what. Yeah, it's no. I don't know if you have again, the tone of the series allows for that kind of humor. But
Oh
if
yeah,
it does, I mean,
she's the butt of most of the jokes, frankly. So.
then. Oh man, yeah, I can definitely see it. So where can we find your book?
So you can, if you're an ebook person, you can find them on Kindle, and then paperbacks, basically wherever books are sold. If you want a signed one, you can get them through the Amphibian Press store, which is on my website, which is vsholmes.com. And if you're not sure if like all these shenanigans and nonsense and absurdity is your brand, you can also check out a free prequel, which sort of mirrors the events of Travelers, but through the love interest Lynn's eyes. You can download that for free on my website as well. So.
All right, so there is vsholmes.com. Right. So I'm afraid to ask this. If you want to say, if you don't want to tell me, I totally understand. But I'm just dying to know. What does the VS stand for?
Nothing.
Nothing?
No, nothing. like legitimately nothing.
No,
V and S. Yep, V and S on Holmes. Yep.
Okay.
It's a pen name. So I've published scientific articles underneath my legal name, and I also do not like my legal name, and we're working on changing that. But I did not need my archaeology boss Googling me to find my analysis of migration paths into the Americas and finding very graphic lesbian space sex scenes. That just wasn't something I wanted in my life.
I actually think you should send that to your boss for Christmas.
Dear Deborah.
Well, no, the show I film on the side, like the show I'm filming, like we have like outtakes. They're just like, these are Christmas cards. Like, I could literally cut the scene and just send them around to different people as Christmas cards. And I would. Again, I'm a very special, strange kind of like, yeah, as you could tell, like I have a little bit strange sense of humor. So I like there are literally things I could say about. Like there are things we said and did and had done on these shows where it's just like for filming purposes, it was like,
whoops.
Pretty much, right? Like, but it was. I mean, it's part of the filming process. Usually, you're gonna let it steam sometimes. Sometimes it's just gonna go off the rails a little bit. But sometimes what you create off the rails is so good. It's like, you know what? I got other uses for this. Hold on, right? Yeah, right. Yeah. So. But anyways, Heretics is the 4th book of the 6-book series. So, lesbian archaeologist in space. So if I were, I might sound uncool asking this question, so don't hold this against me. So is
for
it
the
like
first time ever?
Is it like many times ever?
I had to.
I have to have a scene where you looks like you made me cry somewhere because that's how I've been advertising. Okay, so the how do I put this? So again, I know you're not. Yeah, again, you're behind the ball with video games and stuff. But have you ever heard of Tomb Raider?
Oh yes, of course. So my pitch is usually like Lara Croft meets the X-Files.
Okay.
So that's
Yeah, I just wanted to ask that because I just figured I probably should be doing my due diligence in asking that question.
I usually get asked Lara Croft or Indiana Jones, like pick one kind of thing, like of the famous grave robbers / archaeologists.
Hey, listen, like the grave, like you can let them grave rob all they want. It's okay. I'm not here to argue the importance of grave robbing. I guess I don't know. All right. Next time you come back, we will talk. I had actually, I'll give you this epiphany, and then I'll wrap. We'll do the full final wrap. So I did a book a few years back called Storm Dancer. It's an epic poem. That 10-year-old protagonist I mentioned. That's the story, nice. And she probably would kick my ass just for some of the shit I put her through in that book. But the part that I threw in there was I realized like what would be something 100 years from now, and now people may not know the answer to what we had. And the answer in my head was a Pez dispenser. Because think about just imagine that, like a few hundred
Yeah.
years with no contacts. But it gave me a really wonderful thought, and that's where I'm going to go with. So they go confront the princess, and they think that's some weird, wacky, like, because an animal head and like legs and nothing in the middle. It's like, what kind of freaks were we? We
Mhm.
were pretty freaky, folks. We were pretty freaky. If anyone listens to that. But that all said, I had really like this. I had an epiphany when I wrote that scene, and it was this. You know, what if a lot of these things we don't have answers to were nothing more than the equivalent of Pez, a parent buying a child a toy
Yeah.
along the way? And I had that thought, and I literally liked it,
Mhm.
right? So you're the archaeologist. Am I on something or am I on to something?
No, no, I think you're definitely onto something. There's something so a lot of what we do is a lot like writing when we're digging. You have like tiny fragments of something, and maybe you have a pretty good idea of what they are. But you have to build an entire narrative based on like literally a handful of stone flakes sometimes.
Mhm.
And you're trying to make that narrative accurate and respectful and make sense theoretically.
Yeah.
And a lot of sometimes we'll find artifacts that they're artifacts, but they're the wrong material, and we see that they have the right material and good material, and that's why would they be doing this, why would they be doing that? And I think a lot of us are starting to think like, well, you have to learn somehow. So maybe those are the kids. Maybe the kids are learning how to flint knap on this like crappy piece of stone, because you're not going to waste the good stuff on Junior. um and so I definitely think you're onto something. And I think one of the things I love the most about the field is how so many different people get a job as an archaeologist. We're like vastly different people, and we all are bringing those sorts of theories, like those,
Yeah.
well, what if this? And most of our time we're just speculating about like, oh, well, I wonder if this, I wonder if that, and like, maybe none of us are right, but we're having that conversation and we're talking about like, I don't know, maybe some kid was just like screwing around and making a mess, and the parent didn't want them using the good material.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, I definitely want you to come back. Will you come back?
Yeah. Yes, I'll come back.
Yes. Okay. So, anyways, guys, VS Holmes, here's her website. Go check her out. Go say hi to her. She's actually really sweet. Might not be the right word, but she's
I'm
definitely
kind, I'm not nice.
yes. You actually are pretty nice. I think. I think it's more like reserved. We'll give you that. You're reserved but kind, right?
There we go. All right.
Is
I'll
that
take
fair?
that.
I think
I'll take
I, I
that.
think that's I think that's a fair thing. So, for those watching, I'm going to just do a little quick thing. I always do motivations on my Facebook, so this is
Oh.
my motivation for the day. Wednesday motivation. Some people see a desert, others see an oasis. The difference, understanding. Not every situation is ideal, but there is always opportunities. If you only see the desert, you will burn. But if you see the oasis, you may just find the river.
I like that one. That's a good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. So this is my latest release event. It's called Alice 1. So Alice chases the Queen of Hearts over the edge of the world and ends up in the Greek underworld, where to escape, she must play croquet against Jason of the Argonauts. In so doing, Alice and company go into the labyrinth in the underworld and discover gods, monsters, and perhaps the most terrifying thing of all, themselves. Available now on Kindle exclusively for now. As I've mentioned, there are board game plans, there are physical book plans, one thing at a time.
I
And
love the
that it
board
will,
game thing. That's cool.
yeah. I accidentally did it. We can talk about that out the air. It was one of those. It's one of those like eureka moments. So
Mhm.
that's it for today, folks. Tomorrow we're going to be in late. We got a double trouble here. Leanne, Kathleen, and Gino is back, and she's bringing her friend Abby Edwards. It's going to be a fun one. We're going to be talking comics, and then Friday I'm drawing with Mel. Mel is Mark Park's husband. Mark Park worked on Game of Thrones. She's drawn on the show. Mel's going to draw on the show, and I'm going to get to know him a little bit more. To everybody watching, everybody listening, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.